Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Sirhan on X as I come to you live from Cincinnati, Ohio, in the United States of America on this 11th of August of the calendar year 2025. And here's hoping everyone had themselves a wonderful rest of the week and a wonderful weekend on top of it. Before I get started, I just want to say to everyone on the social media platforms, thank you for the birthday wishes. It's always a grateful thing. As I approach year number 48 in my life that started basically yesterday, and I began to just continue this wild ride and this amazing journey that's called the gift of life. And it's a journey, you know, it's a marathon, not a sprint. I let the man upstairs dictate my final destination, and he's going to be the one that guides me to it. Now, I hope everyone has themselves a wonderful day today. Lots to get to here as I get started here real quick. Before I get started, some new people over the last several days in the sports field wanted to give me the so-called follow on all of the Facebook and X platforms. Just a brief synopsis of what I do. Just like the podcasting and the sports fields have taken shape and evolutionized all over the place, and everyone wants to be a part of it, especially in the sports communities. Yours truly wanted to be a part of it as well, so I decided to take this venture, especially when they went from Twitter, which was basically a died-out product, to X, which still has its issues, but still more evolved compared to what Twitter was. And seeing how everyone did all the content creation, I decided to take the route myself and decided to not just talk current sports, but all sports, whatever levels you wanted to talk about. So that's why I decided to take this field. Those who are watching today, glad to see you on here. Hope everyone have themselves a wonderful day. Basically, I touched on local sports, all kind of national news sports, and the boxing field, which basically is more historical than the present because the present has become politically divided and it's become absolutely a political mess when you consider the cartoonish that's been going on in today's boxing world. And everybody knows I've been in the fight community for the longest time, but I've started to part ways slowly but surely as I've decided to stay in the historical realm and use only my platform for such fields. Now we're going to get started right here tonight. Of course, over here in Cincinnati, some of the news that took place, because everybody knows one of the biggest things I love to do is just dish it to a lot of the Bengals fans and those super fans like those morons like Zim and the captain, among many others, who carry themselves as some of the more degrading human beings in the city of Cincinnati. And there are two reasons for it we're about to talk about. It was revealed the other day that Jermaine Burton, the wide receiver, missed training camp, and everybody here in Cincinnati knows what happened last year with the drama that took place, evictions, whatever. And of course, all the Bengals fans and the super fans like Zim and the captain drew negative responses to what happened here without finding out the details, because that's the type of morons like Zim and the captain are. So I myself, like everyone else, decided to sit back and have a wait and see approach. Maybe Mr. Jermaine Burton would say something about it. And today he did. Basically, he said he was sitting out because of an injury. Nobody knows what it is. It's undisclosed for whatever reason. And as a result of the undisclosed injury, he decided to sit him out of practice. And basically, he thanks all the people who understood it. And for the people who engage in clickbait, like Zim, the captain, and all of these other content creators like Centauri Miles, Sarah Elise, and Kelsey Conway, some of the real cowards in the Cincinnati community, they like to engage in clickbait because they're cowards, drew crazy assumptions, and Jermaine Burton just put that to rest. Look, we know Jermaine Burton had maturity issues when he came out of Alabama. I mean, we knew this, understood. We know what happened last year, his rookie year here in Cincinnati, understood. But when you consider the fact he's basically grown up, basically taking the initiative, basically one of the first guys in the Cincinnati practice every day, and we consider the fact that he basically first man in, last man out, basically owning after the horrendous rookie year he had with all the circumstances off the field. He's basically been I won't use the word model citizen, but he's been basically a stand-up teammate, basically owning his own and basically showing up when they need him to show up. And he's basically produced in the training camp facilities. Now, anyone that knows me knows I don't make big deals out of training camp highlights and training camp, whatever. But when we consider what happened with Jermaine Burton last season and everything he went through, it was, of course, called upon that he had to come over here and show up. And that's what he did. And so far, I'll give him his due. He's done it. And basically, yesterday, it drew all kinds of reactions from all those Bengals fans and those idiotic super fans, especially cowards like Kelsey Conway and the Bengals captain, just to name two of them, who basically like to engage in clickbait because they're cowards. But Jermaine Burton basically shot them too, among many others, down simply because he basically said, look, this is what happened. I was signed with an injury. People need to stop with the clickbait. And that's what happened. Yes, I get that some people are going to have that reaction with what happened to him last season, but he stood his ground, made a statement on his IG earlier today, owned it, and basically said, look, I was signed for an injury, not because of the past. Everybody needs to just chill out. Welcome to Cincinnati, Jermaine Burton, because you have the super fans who like to engage in clickbait, like the moron, the Bengals captain, just to name several. And of course, you have the Bengals fans who have knee-jerk reactions, who always have their panties all up in a bunch, especially when you consider their favorite things are Skyline chili, alcohol, and heroin at the tailgates. But you did your part. You stood your ground. You made your statement. Everything is over. Everybody needs to shut up and move on. You heard it from the man's mouth. He said it was because of an undisclosed injury. Now everyone needs to just move on, because I get it because of what happened last season, and as episodes in Alabama where basically Nick Saban basically publicly said the guy needed to grow up. Looks like in this year too, he's starting to do that, given the benefit of the doubt. Of course, something like that happens again, we'll rehash it. But for now, he deserves the benefit of the doubt because he's basically shown to training camp every day when they asked him to. He deserves credit. I swear everyone has such weird knee-jerk reactions in these sports communities, especially here in Cincinnati. I just don't know what to make out of any of them anymore. And everyone that knows me, that follows me on these platforms, knows I've never been the fan of our fan base when it comes to all of our sports because of how they act and how they carry themselves on social media platforms, radio stations, television stations, and most more importantly, in person, because my two eyes have seen it. That's why I pick and choose who I talk to. I mean, if you want to push me away from you, I can make that easy for you, especially in Cincinnati. Don't try my luck. And speaking of Cincinnati, big hot debate has been going on over the last couple of years and really escalated on the social media platforms today. Is the always debate of the top receiver in the NFL, Ja'Marr Chase of Cincinnati versus Justin Jefferson of Minnesota. Well, let me preface by saying I'm a giant fan of both of them. I mean, I'm always going to take the middle ground on this one because, I'm a giant fan of both of them. I won't put my Bengals bias on for Chase because I'm always just as much of a fan of him as I am of Justin Jefferson. Shout out Josh Isles. I see you pop in here. Hope you're doing good. I look forward to seeing you at one of the Cincinnati games here this coming season. But maybe just appreciate what these two guys bring. I mean, you're Joe Burrow. You were dead lucky you had both of these guys on your college squad at LSU. And basically that's how you went that year where you just steamrolled to the national title. I think it was 2019. Let's get that out of the way. I mean, there's some things Jefferson can do that Chase can't. There are things Chase can do that Jefferson can't. I mean, everybody's going to put Chase on the pedestal because he won the Triple Crown. I understand it. I mean, I get it. Everybody knows me, knows I am not a stats guy. I'm not a guy that says because he puts all kinds of stats all over the place, he deserves the nod. But let me remind you, Justin Jefferson has gone through many quarterbacks. We consider last couple years from Kirk Cousins to Sam Darnold. Had a couple others in there. I can't remember their names off the top of my head. But, I don't engage in this sort of thing because I'm a fan of both. Two, what is the set criteria? Because I'll say this for both fan bases. I don't even know what the set criteria is to determine which receiver is better than the other. Maybe you guys in Cincinnati and Minnesota should be happy you have generational talents at wide receiver because we have a boatload of them. And maybe Chase and Jefferson 1A and 1B, take your pick, is basically the ones that's spearheading all of this young talent we have at that position. And we have a ton of them out there. I mean, CeeDee Lamb in Dallas, of course, Malik Neighbors in New York with the Giants, Garrett Wilson with another New York team, the Jets, Roma Dunze with Chicago, and I bring up a whole bunch of others also. But, maybe instead of getting these in arguments, one, just appreciate what you have and at least acknowledge the other guy is just as great as the other because I said Chase and Jefferson are like this. I mean, take your pick. Don't ask me to take a pick because I'm a fan of both. I'm not going to be biased toward, Chase because I said all along, I know the guy was phenomenal last year when he got the Triple Crown, and it's possible he may get it again this season with how the Bengals offense looked. But I'm not going to engage in this because both guys are just phenomenal wide receiver talents at a time when wide receiver talents is really grown. The last couple of NFL drafts have showed it. Boatload of names I could toss out there aside of the ones I mentioned. But maybe everyone on both sides needs to calm down a little bit. For someone to say one wide receiver of those two clears the other, you're saying Ja'Marr Chase is miles ahead of Justin Jefferson or vice versa. That's completely false. I'll say that right now. Because if 1A and 1B, you take your pick, it doesn't matter because those two are just sensational NFL talents. I mean, everyone across the NFL puts Chase number one. I don't have a problem with it. Some people will have a problem with it and put Justin Jefferson number one. If you ask me if I think Jefferson has a case for number one, I would say yes. But I think at this point, we can conclude one thing. When it comes to the cream of the crop of the NFL, those two are the gold standard right now with how they're doing things. And they're just a fun and a delight to watch. Of course, people are going to talk about the Ja'Marr Chase being the so-called yards after catch merchant. I mean, that's a valid point. Doesn't mean he's better or worse than Justin Jefferson, but that's just how that's how they do things in Cincinnati. In Minnesota, of course, Justin Jefferson being a freak of nature as an athlete. I mean, quarterbacks just throw it up there, and Jefferson finds a way to catch a ball, especially on that fourth down. If you consider a couple years ago when they went to Buffalo, where basically everything was on the line, and Kirk Cousins just he did up there, and somewhere, some way, somehow, Justin Jefferson made one of the surreal highlight reel catches you'll ever see any football player make at any level, high school, college, or the NFL. So just calm down with all of this. Who's a better receiver talk? Because 1A, 1B, and no one person doesn't clear the other as one-sided as people are making it out to be either side. I mean, don't even try the stats comparison because both guys have done it different ways. But doesn't appreciate we have two generational talents at that wide receiver position, being Ja'Marr Chase of Cincinnati and Justin Jefferson of Minnesota. I would have loved to have been a fly in the wall at LSU, wondered what Joe Burrow's eyes looked like having to pass to those two guys during that senior year at LSU when they just ran wild, winning the national championship that season. I mean, you want to talk about having wide receiver room? Sheesh. Now to something I just heard before I came on to the show. This is from he actually does better work on the NBA. I don't know why he feels the need to get involved in the NFL part, but the great Bill Simmons, who does phenomenal stuff for the NBA, especially we talk about the Boston Celtics. And I guess he's and everyone feels the need to talk about this. I don't like to discuss it, but I'll just give you my 2 cents on it. Everyone has this now assumption of where they think Josh Allen is a better quarterback in the NFL than Patrick Mahomes. Well, depends what your criteria is. Again, I ask again, what's the criteria? I mean, if you want to I call Josh Allen the best quarterback, not named Patrick Mahomes, and I think he would take that as a whale of a compliment because everyone in the NFL community will tell you Mahomes is still the gold standard of NFL quarterbacks. We have a boatload of them everywhere. I mean, Burrow, Lamar Jackson, of course, I mentioned Allen, Justin Herbert, Jordan Love, just to name many of them. C.J. Stroud down there in Houston, if they can get offensive line to protect them, and we'll find out about what Caleb Williams is made of over there in Chicago, just to name many of them. But when you consider this sort of statement, that's what my people, you're going to make assumptions out of regular season games, but everyone makes this assumption, forgets one thing. Josh Allen has a hurdle to clear, and that's the Kansas City Chiefs when they play in the postseason. Because to get to that next level, we know Kansas City's been the cream of the crop. A lot of people are going to nitpick it. I get it. But they're still the cream of the crop, at least in the AFC, and you still have to topple them. And the guy that spearheaded all of this, who do you expect? Patrick Mahomes. And that's why, in my opinion, he's still the top dog at quarterback in the entire NFL. I mean, everyone in Buffalo and Cincinnati and Baltimore, you have generational quarterbacks. Be appreciative of what you guys have. But let's not act like, anything that gets to that point. Now, I'll say this on part of Bill Simmons. Part of it's probably because he lives in the New England area, and we know New England fans have their still love for Tom Brady, and nothing wrong with that. He's still the GOAT. But let's not act like that. If Patrick Mahomes continues on his streak, he can challenge Brady as a GOAT. Because a lot of people over there in Boston right now, when you hear the name Patrick Mahomes, they start to get a little fidgety, and they feel the need to over-defend Tom Brady because Tom Brady's stature and career accolades are just through the roof. I mean, Mahomes will challenge it at some point. Doesn't mean he'll surpass him. We'll wait till the career is over. That's probably why I think Bill Simmons would rather have Josh Allen over Patrick Mahomes, because he's a New England homer, and because it's part of the New England area being a New England homer. That is why he said what he had to say about why he wants Josh Allen over Patrick Mahomes. But until it's proven otherwise, not seen otherwise or statistically otherwise, proven otherwise, especially when it matters most, any quarterback in the AFC, the very least, I'll take Patrick Mahomes over any of them. Actually, for now, I'll take him over the field. And that's saying a whole lot because the guy, you can say what you want. He's got it done in the AFC at the very least. I mean, three-time Super Bowl winner, 3 times Super Bowl MVP, 2-time MVP. And I think this year he's going to go scorched earth, show the whole world he's still the man at the quarterback position. I mean, what happens to the Chiefs at the end of the day? Nobody knows. But to me, he's still the man at the tops of the, at least in the AFC, until proven otherwise. And the 2 eyes will be the dictator, not the stat sheets, not what some New England homer named Bill Simmons says. Because some of the things you guys say are just something else. Now I got that off my chest. Now, speaking of quarterbacks, of course, the hot dilemma is what's going on in Cleveland with Shadeur Sanders. We know the story with the NFL draft. Fell into the 5th round for whatever reason. I mean, I don't even know what it is. I mean, is it because of the baggage that he brings, or being the son of the all-time great father, Deion Sanders, whatever it is? But he fell to the 5th, made his preseason debut, and everyone is all over the place. Everybody. I mean, I'll give him this. He looked good. But it was a preseason game. I guess a Detroit team. I don't even know who was playing on the Detroit Lions roster. I mean, but you got to give him credit. He did well. But it was against a Detroit Lions team. I don't know who was playing on that roster. Who was playing? I mean, that's what I'm trying to figure out. I didn't see Aiden Hutchinson. I didn't see DJ Reader. I didn't see any of their top guys in the secondary. But everyone's drawn this conclusion that, Kevin Stefanski should go ahead and start him week 1, which I'd probably say, it's given where Cleveland is headed, you might as well just make that choice right now, because you're not going anywhere up north. You might be lucky to win 4 games this season in Cleveland, so you might as well just throw him out there. I don't really feel the need to throw one of guys like Joe Flacco or Kenny Pickett out there. But again, it's caused a polarizing effect in the entire NFL, what he did on that preseason game. I mean, it's a good quarterback. I mean, I'll give him that. I mean, he was good. But I'm not giving him any credit when you consider he played against the Lions defensive teams. I can't even name any of them. I mean, I could probably name some people who are affiliated with them, but I can't name them. So I'm not going to go all crazy like everyone is in Cleveland or across the NFL. I know Manti Te'o with his girlfriend next to him in that particular segment, basically trying to sell this idea that he's the guy. I mean, for what? I mean, what are we seeing? Everyone needs to calm down for a minute, because everything over there, one preseason game, because you saw a bunch of highlights in a preseason game against 11 guys on the Detroit Lions defensive front that not even anyone, even their own families, can name. But let's just pause for a little bit. I mean, he looked good, but what does it mean at the end of the day? Nothing. I'm not going to make a big hub out of it. I think everybody else should. Because I've always said, when it comes to quarterback play and trying to bust out stats and game tape, if you have if he had the mechanics, I'll give him that. He showed good mechanics. I mean, he showed it when he was in Colorado. Say a lot of things about him, but he did have good mechanics. I'll give him that. But I'm not going to make a big hub out of his mechanics in the first NFL preseason game, because we know there's levels to this, and there's a reason why that guy fell into the 5th round. What the reason is, nobody knows. We'll find out in due time. But let's not act like Cleveland all of a sudden has the reincarnation of Bernie Kosar, because that he isn't. And we know how successful Kosar was in Cleveland. Everyone needs to just chill out. I swear, overreaction in preseason. As Greg Popovich, the great coach of the San Antonio Spurs, would eloquently say, preseason, we're doing this in the preseason. The preseason? Yep, we're doing this in the preseason. That's the funky thing about the NFL fan base. They take training camp seriously. They take combine seriously. They even take waking up out of bed seriously. That's what I tell you about NFL fans. And God love them. I'll say that. I'm an NFL fan myself. God love them all. I mean, I'm a part of you guys. Now to some news out of Philadelphia. And it's basically a little bit of something that's been ongoing throughout the entire NFL preseason that do need to be talked about. It's another significant injury. This one to Landon Dickerson, the standout right guard of the Philadelphia Eagles. Luckily, they say it's only a meniscus, which there's a good chance he might be able to make it before the season's opener, September 4th, I believe, when they play Dallas. The injuries are mounting up. What's the reason for this? That's something that nobody has an answer to, and I'll be lying if I say I did, because I really don't. But let's consider a few things first real quick. When they started cutting down all those 2-a-days and all the extra training camp sessions they used to have way back when, I mean, you could probably say that's a part of it, because you can't simulate reps on your home in your own backyard. I mean, you can't simulate reps, football reps on your own, especially in a position like what Dickerson plays, on your own, basically in your backyard, on your own household. You need those extra workouts, maybe not only that, to get your body in tune to not just play football, but to play NFL football at the caliber we see NFL football play. And when you consider the fact, not just with him, but I think I can't remember the guy's name. It's a guy with the Chargers. He had he had a patella injury. He's done for the year. Sad news for that. We consider Kansas City just lost a top safety, Deon Bush, for the year. Baltimore losing a couple key guys at the secondary position for the year. Makes you wonder, is it because of a lack of reps? Is it because no one's training properly? I know the NFL way back cut a lot of this down because they were more reps with teams, first teams, second teams way back when, and those 2-a-days they used to do that a lot. They've cut down on those. Could that be a problem? Possibly. Reason why I say that, because as I said, you can't simulate those sort of things just going into a gym and pumping iron. That's one thing. You got to be able to do a lot of things that requires extra stretching, extra pushing, use of the pads, among many other things, especially when you play an offensive line position like the guy that was injured for the Chargers. Again, sorry, I apologize if I don't remember his name. And just what happened with Landon Dickerson of Philly just the other day. I mean, you can't simulate reps. You're going to need football reps. Maybe if you had them more, not just lift, not just the weight room. That's one thing. Actual football workouts, because it's one thing to do it in the weight room. You need the actual football workouts with real reps to get yourself body ready to play NFL football. And because it streams it out, your body's not used to it. And because that your body's not used to it, that's potentially why we've had what we had with preseason injuries. Not just this year. We're talking like a few years going, as we had some significant ones. Remember what happened to Teddy Bridgewater many years back in Minnesota? I mean, it was so bad. I can't remember who it was. Somebody actually vomited on the field that was caught on a video. That should tell you what the synopsis is with all of these injuries. Now, as I said many times when it comes to the NFL, I don't want to hear about player safety, because cutting workouts doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be more safe. That's why all of this happens. So a lot of things got mixed up. I don't know what the deal is, but it is a rising concern. And I've said it on many NFL shows I do. There's one thing I genuinely hate is seeing injuries at this time of year. Because remember, we had one here in Cincinnati a couple years ago when Joe Burrow just somehow blew out Achilles. We had the calf problem early in the season, which just derailed his season. And of course, you know what happened to Baltimore a few weeks later with the wrist problem. Something is a problem. Whatever it is, it needs to be looked at, and it needs to be looked at hard, and it needs to be resolved. I mean, I don't know. People are going to say cut preseason games, cut training camp practices. Remember, way back when they used to do 2-a-days. Don't know if that's the answer, but if that's the way they want to go, they can have at it. I mean, it's you don't want to see it. And we talk about key guys at key positions, because now what's going to happen with the Chargers? Joe Alt's going to have to move to the left side, and let's see how that goes. Because the guy that got hurt was a key piece of what they do in L.A. when you talk about how they play physical ball with Jim Harbaugh and like to run it. Now they have to move Joe Alt to that side, and it's going to create an interesting dilemma. So, but luckily, the only thing that came out of it for Landon Dickerson was only a meniscus injury, and they're talking about he may be able to play the season opener. Let's hope that happens. I just hate to talk about preseason injuries now, because it is just terrible all the way around. Ugh. I mean, we're talking about just, basically, like cut a hand or hit a hand against something or something dislocated. We're talking guys that are blowing Achilles, torn patellas, and meniscus injuries. That's a big deal, especially when you talk about big men like O-linemen, especially like a guy like Landon Dickerson. It's just terrible. Hopefully something can come out of this. And speaking of something terrible, I just need to bring this up briefly. I'll just touch on it because I think it was what happened in the end was a good gesture. You guys know what happened in Atlanta over the weekend between the Lions and the Falcons? Maurice Norris got hurt. I guess he had I didn't see the play, but I guess he had a seizure out of it. Turns out that the Lions and the Falcons got together and just let the clock run down after that happened and decided not to play and take on another snap. It was agreed upon by the respective coaches, Dan Campbell of Detroit and Raheem Morris of Atlanta. Job well done, because everybody remembers the Jamar Hamlin situation here in Cincinnati. Granted, it's a whole different dynamic, a whole different shebang. I'm not even going to get into it. But that's scary. And here we are again having a discussion about injuries in the preseason. What's the root cause of it? But for this situation, what happened in game, all credit to both organizations of the Detroit Lions and the Atlanta Falcons to do exactly what they did. And of course, I believe the referee approached Campbell, the coach of the Lions, saying, "What's going on? Are you going to take another snap?" He basically said no, and apparently it was agreed upon by both coaches, both players of both teams that was going to end. I think it went down at this final 6 minutes of the game per NFL rules. At that point, the game was suspended. They decided not to do one ever again. But at least Maurice Norris is in stable condition. Kudos to that. And kudos to the Lions and the Falcons for doing the right thing with this one. The reason why I say that is because it's hard when you see something like that, someone carried out or lay motionless with a seizure. It sucks the life out of you for a fan like myself, it sucks the life out of me when I see something like that because I hate to see it. I don't want to imagine the psyche or the mindset or the body language of an NFL player or any football player, any level, high school, college, or pro, having to see something like that. That, it's a terrifying sight. But kudos to both the Falcons and the Lions for doing the right thing there, especially the respective coaches. And at least Maurice Norris is going to be okay. They said he's stable. He has his moving in extremities. Dan Campbell gave an update. Kudos. So there's my NFL segment. I will segue to what I've gone into in recent years. That's the field of soccer, especially here in Cincinnati. But everyone has had their pennies all up in a bunch when it comes to FC Cincinnati, what took place last night against Charlotte. You had 90 minutes to score a goal, and you couldn't. You had 90 minutes to score a goal against a team that I don't know what the hell because he had nothing to play for, but you couldn't get the job done. And here you guys are blaming a red card. Granted, the situation was a bit funky, putting the red card as the reason why you lost the game. You have 90 minutes to score a goal. You couldn't score a goal. The team that beat you only scored one goal. How the hell are you going to talk about a red card that lost you a game when you had 90 minutes to score a goal and you couldn't get the job done? Just like, all sports. And this is why I go at people who point fingers at referees, among many other things, umpires, whatever. Good teams find ways to win. Okay? Good teams find ways to win. Good teams find ways to work around that. They know they have the entire game and not rely on, whatever so-called missed call or whatever. Bad teams use that as an excuse for poor play. And that's what Pat Noonan did yesterday with the press conference after FC Cincinnati lost to Charlotte. Here's the thing. Again, you had 90 minutes to take care of it. You didn't. You couldn't. It's true in all sports. You don't just rely on one missed call or one play. Good teams work around it. Bad teams use it as an excuse. And here we are with this. It's a crying shame because FC Cincinnati was battling for the top spot in the supporter shield, and nothing happened as a result. And because they had the favorable results, what happened? They laid an egg on their home field against Charlotte, a place that they've basically taken care of home field basically over the last 5 seasons. And as a result, that's why we had what we had at the end of the day. Plain and simple. No other way to describe it, no other way to enclose it. But you better take care of business coming up because you have some tough games coming up. If you want to position yourself for the supporter shield and you have 90 minutes and whatever we call the stoppage time, whatever they want to use over there in soccer to score goals. Time to put the ball in the goal a little bit and stop pointing fingers at red cards or yellow cards because that's not why you guys lose games. It's because you can't put the ball in the goal. 3 of the last 4 games, you haven't been able to put a ball in the goal. That's the problem. Not some red card. Granted, the red card was under funky circumstances, but that's not why you're losing games. Everybody at FC Cincinnati needs to look at themselves in the mirror That includes the players, the fans, and some of the respected beat writers, who I love the hell out of. Everyone needs to look at themselves in the mirror and realize that's the problem. How about find a way to put the ball in the goal? Because you've been shut out 3 of the last 4 games, and that's a problem. And you check that's 2 of the last 4. 1 of the 4, you got a goal after a game was over in garbage time, which didn't even matter, which was just window dressing on a stat sheet. I'll deal with that later. Now to one of the coolest things I read today, and this, of course, cost sparks, but I'm going to put this thing to bed. This is too easy. It was announced today that the UFC at the end of 2025 is going to leave ESPN and is going to join Paramount Plus. $7.7 billion deal. Lots of UFC events going to be televised. No pay-per-views, so the pay-per-view bracket is dead. Goodbye and good riddance, because the pay-per-views on UFC have been jokes in recent years. Paramount Plus is not screwing around. I mean, they have the deal with a few years back with the NFL joint venture with CBS. Recently, you got South Park, the outstanding cartoon, Respect My Authority. And now UFC joins Paramount Plus in a pretty darn good deal. I think like $7.7 billion. And basically, a record-breaking deal where, to me, everyone's going to win. I mean, everyone's going crazy over who wins, who loses. Short term is not going to sound like much. Give it about another year or 2, everyone's going to be a winner, because Paramount Plus isn't screwing around. They're bringing all the big guns over there, and that platform is just about to boom and skyrocket. I mean, they're the ones that brought us the boxing fraternity, the 4 kings of the Leonard Hearns, Hagler, Durant era, among many others. Brought the stuff over from Showtime, especially the Hector Camacho story. A lot of television programming from past, present, and future. And now they add one of the premier brands in America, UFC, onto its platform. What a deal. Job well done all the way around. It's a great deal. It's a great contract. Excellent job. And to me, at the end of the day, nobody's going to lose. If someone can tell me I can watch UFC on a platform like that without having to cough up extra dollars, I'll do it. I'm a regular Paramount Plus subscriber, so I win at the end of the day. And basically, for you guys in the UFC, I would recommend you guys look into being a Paramount Plus subscriber. They have a lot of good stuff. And Paramount Plus is just booming right now. Much love to that particular platform. I'm looking forward to this. Great deal. Job well done. And we consider that ESPN just bought the WWE. And we consider basically the quality of their UFC pay-per-views when it was on the ESPN Plus, because their streaming site for that network was just absolutely abysmal. It was time for a change. And once 2026 starts, they're going to Paramount Plus. CBS, I believe, is going to simulcast several of those particular things, so you can watch the UFC fights on free TV as well. What a day for the UFC. What a day for Paramount Plus and CBS. Job well done. Great deal all the way around. And now I conclude with a historical aspect, speaking of American sports. And actually, before I divulge into this, I just want to say to everyone in the fight community, this is what you should have been calling for the last 3.5 decades, because what UFC just did, if boxing would have done that way back when, we wouldn't have half the problems we have. But a lot of you guys just sat on your couch, resorted to flipping through your phones, basically doing whatever, acting like everything's going bad, you can't fix it. A lot of you guys have to look at yourselves in the mirror, because UFC just won up that sport times 20, and boxing is officially dead in America. I'm sorry, but it is. Now I'll get back to what I need to get to. Speaking of platforms, maybe the biggest platform in the 90s hit a historical moment 35 years ago today in Lake Tahoe, Nevada. It was, of course, HBO's World Championship Boxing at its apex. First ever tripleheader that took place, featuring Mildred Taylor, Hector Camacho, and Pernell Whitaker. Lots of storylines with this one. I've always said with the premium networks, HBO, Showtime, when it started to get hot, this is where it really started to get hot, and HBO dropped one of the bigger bombs when you talk about this tripleheader that took place, because none of the platforms ever had a real-life world championship tripleheader quite like this. This was Mildred Taylor in his first fight after losing to Julio Cesar Chavez. We know the storyline of that one. The inconsistent and sporadic career of Hector Camacho. We know the story of that one. And the rise to greatness of the great Pernell Whitaker. We know the story of that one. Take 3 stories, put them all on one particular card, and basically HBO boomed. And that's when the World Championship Boxing platform started to really take off. I mean, back then, you would only get one, not even, you get two, maybe two fights, but that's about it. But that's the first time you had three fights on a televised card, all three the way they did. Because back then, you would have two fights, and you would see a third fight, the highlights of it on the off TV portion of the HBO cards. But you had all three on one night, and all three had stirring stories. Brief synopsis with this, because all three were just basically whitewashes. I mean, Mildred Taylor beat Primo Ramos, his first fight since the Chavez loss, but you saw the after effects of the Chavez fight and that one for Taylor, especially when they did the pre-hype after before the fight when they interviewed him. The eye was still gone. The speech was beginning to slur, but he did get the win. Hector Camacho is a part of his inconsistent career. Shut out Tony Baltazar, and basically a sparring partner fight because they're former sparring partners. And what you get out of that fight, you get sparring partner syndrome. That's what Camacho Baltazar was. But Camacho basically got a shutout at the end of the day. Maybe the best hair matchup in boxing history. If you want to see a hair matchup, Google Hector Camacho versus Tony Baltazar. That's a whale of a matchup, hair matchup, especially the mullet of Tony Baltazar. Back when mullets were the thing, Tony Baltazar had the best mullet in boxing, pound for pound, at that time. Too bad he couldn't fight with. Too bad mullet doesn't equate to good fighting because he got schooled by Camacho. And of course, the capper of the night was history being made, was Pernell Whitaker with a perfectly placed left hand on the chin of Juan Nazario. And Juan Nazario goes face first, sleeping with the ass in the air, face in the canvas, and that was it. When you're in the ass in the air and the face in the canvas type position, as Juan Nazario was, might as well just bring the bed and the blanket because it's a wrap. And that's what Pernell Whitaker did at the end. But the story was HBO took it to newer heights with a standout triple header that they had no platform at that point. Remember, this is when free TV premium networks had a bunch of main double headers, but never had a main triple header like what HBO did 35 years ago in Lake Tahoe, Nevada. Three premier main event guys who could basically sell a car on their own because of their stature and their names got together for one great night at Lake Tahoe, Nevada. Basically, it was like a Julio Cesar Chavez sweepstakes because Chavez had ascended to the best fighter pound for pound. Taylor had just lost to Chavez. Camacho was ducking Chavez until they finally fought in 97. And now Whitaker put himself in that sweepstakes when he just obliterated Juan Nazario and just cleaned out the lightweight division. But that was what the HBO Sports World Championship Boxing platform did. Basically rose up and basically just said, dare me. Because we got World Championship triple headers later eventually. But when you're the first to do it, the way HBO did 35 years ago in Lake Tahoe, that's always going to be remembered as historical and remembered as something special. I mean, the fighters, we got bust a list of all the fighters that went through that network. But we never, for the longest time, that was the epitome of what HBO Sports World Championship Boxing was. And to give you an understanding for the general consensus of what the premium wars were back then, it's just basically boxing's version of what the Monday Night Wars were in wrestling. We talk about HBO and Showtime. HBO dropped the biggest bomb when they did this. And basically, Showtime, eventually, when they got Don King and Mike Tyson, that's the way it's saying we'll compete. But the cards, basically, one night you had HBO having a double or triple header. Eventually, Showtime will try to countersuit. And then eventually, HBO will countersuit. And then Showtime will countersuit. And those premium wars between HBO and Showtime lasted 2.5 decades. And it were some wild wars. We consider the fight cards, the fight promoters, the fighters, among many other things. And we consider that many of those fighters would cross over at times, really would set some fireworks off. But the real firework, you could probably say, was set 35 years ago today, when, for the first time ever, 3 world championship caliber fights were televised as a televised triple header in Lake Tahoe, Nevada, on HBO's World Championship Boxing Tonight, when Mildred Taylor, Hector Camacho, and Pernell Whitaker were triple featured on televised television for the first time ever. We never had anything like that. Usually that stuff they say for pay-per-views, but that was the first time on any kind of premium network or free television you saw that kind of a triple header. It was wild times, especially in the fight community, because it was absolutely fun. Boy, I wish we can get back to those days. but it looks like boxing in America is just gone to the toilet bowl. I mean, it hasn't been flushed yet, but it's only a matter of time before it's actually flushed. It's a crying shame. Because a lot of you guys try to say you have a solution to it. Solutions doesn't mean hosting X Spaces, doesn't mean sitting on your home with a phone device, among many other things. It means getting up and actually being doing something about it. You've had this whole time, and now you guys are complaining about the Muhammad Ali Act. That's another topic for another day because it's too political. But you guys know what the problems were. None of you guys wanted to get up and solve it, and that's why the mess is what it is. Plain and simple. That's why I'm just sitting here, and the reason why I'm not getting involved, because I never said I had the solution. If I had a solution, I'd be out there, but I don't. A lot of you guys say you do. If you do, get off these apps, get out there and fix it. Because sitting on your apps and complaining about boxing is broken or boxing is dead among many other things doesn't solve it. Plain and simple. For you new timers, yes, there's stuff I like to get off my chest on the show, but you know what can you do? But that's why I do this. You know, a lot of people think of me as a bogus account, a fake account. I guess I solved that riddle. I divulge into many sports simply because I hate to be a one sport guy. Everyone thinks of me as a one sport guy with boxing. I'll tell you an interesting story. When I got into this is a decade ago when social media was starting to really shape up the early part of the late 2000s, early 2010s. I was born in the NFL community, and it was someone who was in the NFL community who also a deep historian in boxing knew about my work in the fight field back then and brought me to that at that point. So I was a boxing. My deep passion was boxing for the longest time, but I was doing work with the NFL, and a guy who did the NFL boxing like I do brought me back to the fight game. And then that dissipated for a while in the mid part of the 2010s because everything became a hot mess. So entered 2021 when I returned to the X platform, and same thing. I got brought back by an NFL guy, and then a couple fight followers saw me with the NFL and saw I had a boxing post on my platform. They brought me back to the fight game. So yes, I am a fight guy, but I was doing more work with other sports, especially the NFL and sometimes even the NBA before I got back in the fight game. So yeah, my fight game is my specialty. You can think of it that way. But I have multiple specialties, and I was doing other work before I got back into the fight game. That's one thing people have this misperception of me. I was doing stuff with both the NFL and the NBA way back when, before I got back into the fight game. And of course, I spun it off to other sports like the UFC, which I've done hit and miss of before, but more consistently now. And of course, soccer, which is something I've always loved, but because it wasn't the hit, because when I got started, soccer wasn't the big thing here in America. It was more global. But when it came big, especially here in Cincinnati, I decided to partake in it because FC Cincinnati is the talk of the town at times here in Cincinnati. And when they light up TQL Stadium with the fans and the players and the interaction and the electricity, it trumps anything Reds and Bengals fans could ever dream of. Plain and simple. So, yeah, I mean, you want to call me the fight specialist? Have at it. But let me remind you, I was doing other work in the NFL and the NBA, among many other sports, before I got brought back into the fight game at least on 3 different occasions from the mid part of the 2000s to now. So, yes, you can translate it any way you want, but let's remind people, I'm not a one-sport guy. And if I was a one-sport guy, I'd have a stale product. Now, I do have some shows, like I'm going to have one tomorrow, where I devote it to a particular fighter and a historic event, but I do multiple platforms, and I've said all along, if you guys in the NFL community, you guys in the NBA community, the fight community, boxing or UFC, if you guys want me on anything, hit me up. I will gladly make a guest appearance. But I tell everyone equally, I'm not going to do anything to help prop up views. I'm not going to do anything to help fill a narrative. I'm going to tell it like it is. I don't use the stats. I don't use any of those things. I use one thing and one thing only. These 2 eyes, and let the 2 eyes function to the brain and create my own analysis. Because I tell everyone in the stats biz, stats are not the end-all be-all of a production of an athlete. Never has been, never will be. It's a good, maybe a good conversation piece, but it's not the end-all be-all. Because if you can't interpret stats the way they should be interpreted, you shouldn't even be in the stats game. And this coming from a guy who's a stats major himself. Because Those who don't know, a bachelor's in business administration, a double minor in quantitative analysis, which included stats, as well as operations management. So that should tell you what my mindset is. I'm glad to be a part of this. I'll be back more and more. New stuff coming up as the time progresses, because now with this content creation thing, I guess everybody wants me to do everything else. Just give me some time, okay? Because it's going to come. I'm enjoying this. I'm having a little bit too much fun. But as I said all along, don't expect me to say something to please you, because if I say something that is legitimately true and you don't like it, too bad. Take it or get out. Life's too damn short. And that'll conclude this edition of Sirhan on X on the 11th of August, 2025. I hope everyone has themselves a wonderful rest of the day. Those of you living in the Cincinnati area, another heat wave is coming on, so take precautionary measures. And I always say two things. For those of you who have the audio platforms, iHeartRadio, Apple, and Spotify, you can listen to my show once it's uploaded after this is done, if you miss any part of it. And my one advice to tell everyone out here is always take care of yourself first. If you take care of yourself first, good things will come your way. If you don't take care of yourself first, nothing else matters in all of life. Tomorrow night, I will harken on a fighter's career who had two magical moments on that particular day in two separate years. But there's a silver lining that nobody wants to talk about 4 decades later. I'll be the one to talk about it. But until then, have a good rest of the night. Take care of yourselves. God bless, and enjoy the evening.